Hello. Just welcoming us all back to the Mindful Cave. It's me and Maliha again. Again, I'm Safa. I'm a youth worker at Urban Community Project, and we're just back for our second episode. The last episode we kind of covered our understanding of racism and what our experiences were and how they kind of affected us. But this time round we'll just kind of dive a bit deeper into that. But I just want to start the episode by thanking CORRA Foundation once again for funding this project. I also just want to say, I don't think I mentioned this in the last episode, but everything that we are talking about are just based on what we've experienced through life. It's not any sort of expert advice or like factual.
And it's not this kind of like general assumption that everyone who is Pakistani Muslim
has the exact same experience.
Has had the exact same experience. It's just kind of our own personal to what we've had and what we've grown up with. So just wanted to make that aware with everyone.
There probably will be some crossovers with other people, but this is majority just our own experiences.
Yeah. So we'll just start off the episode with talking about, like Safa said, our experiences, not just racism and our first kind of encounters with racism, but looking at it in terms of school perspective. So growing up, for us specifically at least, we grew up in the West End of Glasgow, and predominantly, at least back then, the West End was kind of filled with majority were white people, and it still is kind of like that to this day. While it is rising with ethnic minorities, it's not as much as it used to be. Like for Safa, she can say that she was the only kind of ethnic minority person in her class at the time.
Whole year, I believe, in primary school, it was me and my close friend who is Afghani, but I was the only like practicing Muslim at the time, from what I remember. But yeah, I grew up in a very predominantly white primary school and secondary school. In the primary school, I was the only hijabi girl from primary 6 and primary 7. Actually, I was the first girl to ever wear a hijab in my primary school ever. So that was like a first time thing for the history of the school, which was crazy. And then in high school, I was the first hijabi. I was the only hijabi until maybe third or fourth year, until first year came in. But yeah, it does kind of make you feel like, I don't know, it really does make you realize that you're a bit different.
Yeah.
Things like that. It just kind of like, at first maybe people don't see it as much, or I don't know, it's not, maybe you don't recognize it, but it just becomes more prominent as soon as you get older, and
I think when
especially in high school.
Yeah, in high school it's more apparent. I mean, actually, I just remembered when, kind of really similar to Safa, I was in my primary school, I was the only hijabi for basically, I started wearing a hijab when I was in P6, and I basically was the only one until I left school, and even the ones before me, they didn't wear the hijab. So I remember I went to a Catholic primary school when I was growing up, and I don't know why I did this, but I thought it was quite respectful at the time. So when I decided to wear a hijab, knowing that I go to a Catholic school, so every Friday we would go to mass because we had a church we would go to, and they would do kind of their stuff related to their religion. And as much as I was kind of participating in the sense of like I would attend the sermons, I wouldn't engage in it fully. So knowing that now I will be representing my own religion, I thought it was a good idea to ask my head teacher if they felt it was okay for me to wear a hijab. Looking back on it, now I realize that like that's not them to give me permission to do that, but at that point when I was really, really young,
I felt like you had to.
I feel like I had to ask because I'm in their territory. This is a Catholic school, and I'm asking them to be okay with the fact that I'll be wearing a hijab. And now that doesn't mean I'm going to be instilling my religion into the practice of the school of like, oh, I'm gonna now teach them to read like the prayers, and I'm gonna teach them this.
No, you're just practicing your own faith.
I'm just wearing the hijab to show as a symbol to me, but not that making that an assumption.
You're not imposing it on anyone.
Imposing it exactly in any way. And I remember her response to that was, oh, that's a great idea. Why don't we make what's it called? Like a assembly. Why don't we make an assembly and you can teach your peers about the hijab? Now, bear in mind, I was about maybe 10 or 11 years old when I started wearing the hijab. At that point, I didn't fully grasp the entire idea of it. I had a basic understanding. And I was wearing it for the right reasons, but I didn't know everything I should know about the hijab.
Not enough to teach a whole school worth of kids in an assembly.
And it was it wasn't, thankfully, it wasn't the whole school, but it was my whole year. And and we were in the assembly hall. And this was like planned in during...
It's already making me nervous.
It was planned in during like an actual assembly that we had anyways, which was fine. And she calls me up and she's like, Maliha, can you come up and talk about the hijab and why you're going to be wearing it? I don't remember anything that I said. Now, I have a twin brother and he obviously, we were in the same class, etc. She calls up my twin brother to the stage and asks him, when are you going to start wearing the turban? And I remember him going like, we don't wear turbans. And also turbans aren't a religious thing.
I'm laughing, but it's terrible.
It's so ridiculous that it makes you laugh because, first of all, the scenario itself that I'm doing...
That would never happen now.
That wouldn't happen now. It was different. It was very different back then. Like, they thought
But you would think as a teacher, you would educate yourself on students in your school.
Yeah.
And forget students. You would educate yourself in different practices and religions and understand like the basic things that come along with different religions and faiths, because
putting that on a young 10-year-old to represent that
it's insane. It's insane
to be like, okay, well, now you've clearly made it obvious that you are going to be practicing your religion. You should hold that weight and represent all Muslims, and you're going to do it in front of the whole class of your year. And
what that does to a child is insane.
And me as well, and I've mentioned this in the previous episode, I was a very shy kid. Public speaking was not something that I ever did. Like, and to be going in front of someone, not even someone, the whole year, and talk about something that's so personal and so intimate to me and my relationship with my religion, having to share that publicly, like, I don't know how I did it. I blocked it out. I don't even have much.
You don't have a memory.
I don't have a memory of what I said.
It's funny, you triggered a memory of mine, but I'll mention it.
So that's how it happened. And it's like, it's the fact that first of all had to undergo that experience, but then also the fact that they brought my brother up and asked him, when is he going to start wearing a turban? Or I think first they asked, when is he going to start wearing a hijab? And then they obviously explained that men don't wear hijabs. And then they go, oh, no, sorry, the turban. And then that was another huge assumption that they had made because of the color we are, the religion, the culture, whatever.
It's
insane.
It is. Which... Curiosity is one thing, which is fine, but putting that on a 10-year-old is absolutely it's madness. It's like it's crazy. And I wondered, did they ask your mum if it was okay for you to do this, or did they ask any parent permission for it?
I never asked my mum, to be honest. She might have been asked, but knowing,
just because it's like the way that they would ask, like, what 10-year-old knows? Like, you know, like, exactly. Usually you would get some sort of permission to be like, oh, can your daughter do that? Or can your son come
Especially with such a big topic. Like, they're a Catholic school. They represent their religion.
Yeah, exactly. So, I just wonder if there was ever a point where they discussed it with your mum or your parents.
I don't think so. Not that I remember.
It just occurred to me.
I need to go back and ask because I don't...
I ask now because I'm a youth worker and I always have to ask permission for things.
Exactly. So like you're saying, this wouldn't happen now.
Yeah.
There's so much more things put in place where things like that can't happen. It shouldn't happen. Like you said, because it's such a different generation. But like you said, it's just like they think that it's a teaching moment and it's good to encourage. But in reality...
Probably back then it wouldn't really be seen... I say back then, we're not that old. But back then it wouldn't be like a consideration of any sorts to be like...
That's... Yeah. Like I don't think...
This is personal and this is like a big moment for her to see all of this. And
I don't think they realized that was a form of racism, especially the assumptions they made about my brother and his relationship.
That is especially...
That's definitely discriminatory and has a lot of racism in it. But just that whole thing in itself, I didn't realize at the time because I was just so traumatized by the experience itself. That, you know, from there it just kind of stuck with me. So that was kind of my first racism encounter in a school setting specifically. And I think from there, I'm sure you relate to this a lot, Safa, that there has been different scenarios within different education systems we've been in, that there's been treatment from like your peers, your classmates, staff differently due to your color. And things like that, where it does become very obvious of like, okay, I'm feeling a bit excluded. Ways.
Exclusion was probably the biggest part of my high school experience. Although you did trigger a memory of mine in primary school.
Back to that. Okay.
So I think it was Eid was coming up, and it was me and I had a friend who was a year younger than me, and we were talking about Eid. Maybe I don't know if we were talking about it in the playground or whatever. And then a teacher comes up to, or maybe it was RE class, or what, honestly can't remember what the context was. But someone overheard us and they were like, oh, why don't you do something for the school? And now this was the first time ever that our primary school had talked about Eid.
Oh, wow.
Like, obviously you have your Christmas break and everything else, and you don't really talk about other celebrations. So this was the first time like a different celebration was brought up as a topic, and we were like, it was so funny. I remember coming in dressed up in like Pakistani clothing. And we went on stage and we sang a song in bear in mind I don't speak Arabic. We sang a song in Arabic, and it was I must have blocked this out so much, but it was just the fact that they picked us to do it, and it was like we were talking about Eid as if we knew everything about it. But
so you again were representing your whole culture,
and I don't remember it, so it was so funny to me. But now I have actually spoke to my cousin's boy is now in the primary school that I went to. And they do Eid every year since now. Like they talk about it and they make it a celebration. Like the teachers talk about it and teach the kids of it.
So it's a part of the curriculum then.
Well, not in the sense of a curriculum, but more if it comes up in the year, they'll talk about it and they'll bring in books and they'll talk to kids. And
so it's like an awareness around
the awareness is brought into it, which is I found really interesting that now it's like now continued from when I left.
Okay.
But yeah, you guys
were the original. You were the OG people who started
now they do like cultural representation days where they wear like you know like clothing from their culture or your culture or your background. It's really interesting. But it's funny how that I remember when it was like the first ever time of doing that ever in the whole history of the school, and then we did that, and then
it's carried on from because they must have seen it's had an impact, and then a realization must have hit them of like, okay, there's something we're lacking.
I don't know how it would. My singing was terrible. I don't know why
your singing spoke to them so much. I think that's probably
I really don't think that's true.
But I think but the good point that you made there was that it wasn't necessarily put in the curriculum, but it was an awareness. And I think like primary school is a whole different story. Like that's not going to be much a part of the curriculum, but in high school everyone went through RE, so like religious studies and things like that. So from there you would do the top 3 religions, so Christianity, Judaism and Islam. And then whenever, I'm sure you must have related to this too, whenever the Islam one, like the time you would start that topic, everyone would look to you because most of the time the teachers would be white and they aren't Muslims themselves.
I had a teacher ask me a question about Islam while she was teaching the lesson of Islam. I was like
verifying you're like someone who's
I'm like the spokesperson for the whole of Islam. She was like, does this actually happen in like Islamic marriages? And I was like, girl, I'm like 13. I'm not married and I don't know. Like,
and I wouldn't know. What do you think we know about marriage? It's that's probably another assumption. Like
I was like, what are you asking me? I don't know.
Oh wow. And
that's so funny.
And it's like you said, like as soon as like I used to remember like we would watch like history, like DVDs and like videos on history stuff, and there'd be one South Asian person who's most of the time it was Indian people. But because they're Indian, there's an assumption that they're the same as ourselves. And I know India and Pakistan were once the same and all that kind of history behind it. As soon as that person would come on the street, they would turn around. and they would go, what are they saying? And I go, there's subtitles there. Read the subtitles. I'm not going to tell you what that's...
I may understand what they're saying, but I'm not going to explain it to you because it's there. Like, it's literally there
right in front of you. But they just have to make that known of like, well, that's your people. You know, it's that kind of like... and you're so like...
you're so thrown off. Like
you don't know what to do with that. No. I didn't know what to do with that.
And you would just go along with it. You're like, oh, they're saying this, this, and this, and you'd be like, okay, fine. Like it's like.
Yeah, you just have to kind of play along at that point, because if the more you make something about it, it's just not worth it. And you're like, oh yeah, this is that, and then you just triggered a memory of mine.
Oh no.
where it keeps going deeper. This is how it starts. Where, like you said, an assumption of like your teacher was teaching this course on Islam, like the curriculum on Islam for your religious studies, and they were like, well, you're a Muslim, so you should represent. You know more than me. I remember I was sitting in art class, and I was in art. Bear in mind, I'm doing whatever I'm doing, my drawings, and I think I must be in second year at this point, so I was about 14, 15, let's say. And my French teacher, so she is my French teacher, she teaches me, comes into my class, and there was exams going on at the time where they had like, sometimes they had like Urdu, but there was kids coming from another school to do the exams in my school at that that time, and she came into my class and she asked me, oh Malia, can I talk to you for a minute? And I was like, yeah miss, what's up? I'm thinking something to do with her subject French. And I go, yeah, what is it? And she goes, now this is an exam paper and the teachers have been given it, but we aren't sure about this specific thing, and it's in Urdu, can you tell me what it says? And I look at her and I go, I don't read Urdu. Like, I don't understand it.
I speak conversational Urdu.
I speak conversation, and even at that point, it was very broken. Like, I wasn't very confident in speaking my mother.
She made an assumption.
She came out of her class to be like, there's an exam going on, and I can't remember exactly to the T what it was, but it was like, can you read this and tell me what it says? And I'm like, I have no idea. And the shock horror in her face when I told her I don't know what it was, she just was like, oh, okay, and left. And you could tell there was so much immense guilt of like an assumption she was totally made. And I don't know if I was the first person she asked, the third person, the last person. How many other brown like people who were South Asian she went to and asked that same question to? Like, I have no idea. And it was just so crazy that these cousins, like she's in education, she's a teacher, she has her degree, she's experienced. And just because there's not much of an understanding, and that's okay, I don't expect her to know what it says.
Again, there's a difference between ignorance and
like curiosity.
Exactly.
There's a difference between that, but the ignorance and arrogance comes from the assumption. The assumption of like, well, this person's an ethnic minority, so let's say their mom and dad must not be from this country, so they don't speak English. Clearly, if they don't speak English, they're translating for their mom and dad because they're born and raised here. So they would know their mother tongue to the T. And it's not always the case. Like, your dad was born here. And it's like, that's not how things work. Just because they have that assumption. And these are people in professional settings. They're teachers. They're meant to be kind of holding that professional role, but they just make those assumptions.
It's crazy.
And, you know, it's things like that where it just stays with you. And you're just like, you realize that how much of your kind of how much of your identity is then confused and lost, and then you think, oh well, should I know Urdu? Like, should I know it like fluently, that I'm not even representing it properly?
I don't know if you've had this experience, but I go to Pakistan quite a bit. And I've been going since I was really small, since I was in like primary school. And I remember going sometimes and coming back and not remembering, like maybe having a bit of an accent and not remembering English very well. And I remember being put into like a separate class for my English because I was like falling behind. I don't know if I was particularly falling behind, because again, I grew up here. My dad's Glaswegian, technically speaking. And like, I don't think my English was that bad. I think I would come back and I would slightly forget things because again, I was so small.
You weren't exposed to it as much.
So I would go to Pakistan and I would speak Urdu with everyone, or Punjabi, or whatever it was. And then I would come back and then they would always put me in a different class. And now that I'm looking back on it, I'm kind of like, I don't know why they did that, because my English wasn't terrible. It wasn't that bad. My English,
you had like an accent.
I would have come back with an accent, or wouldn't be able to say certain things. But just fair enough. But I remember being in those classes the whole time I was in primary school.
And did you feel like the classes you were in weren't represented to the English level that you had? Like, you felt like you were ahead of the people who were in that class. Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, I don't know if it was because I kept going. To be fair, I did miss like chunks of school because I would go to Pakistan to see my mum's side of the family. But even when I was in Pakistan, it was the state that like oh, you don't speak Urdu properly. Like, my cousins would say that to me. They were like, can you say this in English? Or can you say this? Because you sound different. Or you sound like this. And it would be like, they would be making fun of me there as well.
Yeah.
So I was very, like, I just felt excluded. I was like, I would go back and they would say things like, you know, you say this weird, or you say this differently, or you don't know what we're talking
your
about.
Grammar and Urdu.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm trying. Like, come on. And then I would come back here, and then my English would be bad, and it would be both. I would just be so, like, lost.
Misplaced. You didn't know where you stood.
Yeah, because both places I'm going, I'm being told I'm not. Basically, I don't belong.
Yeah, you're right.
And then,
it's crazy.
Yeah. I think it takes a while for you to realise that it doesn't matter what people say about you, but
what feels true to you, and that's different for every person. They can stay more connected to being the Pakistani side of them. They can be more connected to the Scottish side of them. But it's more to do with, like you said, what's true to yourself, what feels right.
And I remember, like, kind of suppressing my Pakistani side.
Yeah.
I remember my mum giving me, like, lunches, and it was like Pakistani lunches. It'd be like dal.
Or like lentils, and it had like mince, and it's like
or it would be like kebabs and like a bread, like a sandwich, and people would be like, "Oh, that smells," and I'm like, "It's kebab." Like, come on.
And also,
nowadays everybody loves kebab.
Yeah,
who doesn't love a good kebab?
Exactly.
But like
back then,
I would be so ashamed of. I'd be like, "Mum, just put cucumber and like tomatoes in a sandwich and just give me that." Like, stop trying to give me food that's like Desi or Pakistani food. Like, I can't. I feel so embarrassed. Like, I don't like it.
And then you'd feel like there would be a bit of, like you said, shame around it.
Yeah,
where you're like you have to hide that part of you because it's made so obvious by your peers and sometimes even staff, like teachers, that you're different from them. And especially at that young age, the only thing you really want to do is to fit in.
Yep.
So already you're like, well, I'm already a different color. That's super obvious. And now I'm someone who wears a headscarf. I wear a hijab. That's another added factor.
Yep.
Now I need to do my best to fit in the culture wise. And that's something that's so difficult, knowing that because our parents are from Pakistan, like you said, your mom would give you these lunches, and then you're like, oh, well, you have to say to your mom, you just can't, just stop giving me it. And then there'd be this anger around, like, why am I so different? Why can't I just be like, you know? And it's...
I would put away, like, my mom would try and put me in Pakistani clothes, like... Yeah. Like a shalwar kameez. And I'd be like, I don't want to wear that because nobody else wears that. Yeah. Like, I don't want to wear that because that makes me look different.
Yeah, people will make fun of me for it.
Yeah. And my mom would go around in Pakistani clothes, like, on a daily basis, like when we were going out to town. And I would feel slightly... like, oh, Mum, why can't you just wear
with jeans and a top?
Yeah. And I would now looking back at that, I feel horrible for even thinking that about my mum, because she should be able to wear what she wants to wear. Like, why should I make her feel bad for wearing what she's comfortable in? Forget even representing, because it does represent her. Yeah. But even just feeling comfortable in what she feels comfortable in. Like, I don't know, it's just terrible that
But then there's things that, like, being on social media, I don't know if you've heard of this before, but it's called like this Scandinavian scarf.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like people are wearing normal like dresses, and they wear like a really skinny beaded scarf or something like that around their neck, and they're calling it Scandinavian scarf.
Which is, by the way, literally a dupatta, which is a scarf that you would get in like Pakistani clothing for like just putting around your neck.
And that's a part of the outfit, and we've had that for years. That's a part of our like culture.
That seems a bit like a cultural appropriation
moment, but that becomes a trend where people are like, oh my god, have you heard of the Scandinavian scarf?
Yeah, but if we were to do that,
but if we were to do it, then people would be like, oh, what's that? It's so weird. But then they make these kind of like, they make a name that's not associated to that kind of whatever we have it, as you said, dupatta, but name it Scandinavian scarf, and suddenly that's okay for whatever reason. And I think there's things like that you can see in that comes up quite a lot. But I think from there we've probably spoken quite a lot.
I think it was probably best wrapping up this episode, because we're just going to go on tangents.
We'll start going from one place to another.
But I do think we've talked a lot about our kind of very personal experiences around racism, especially in schools and education. You think of a place of education as a place of safety, right? And a place where you won't be judged for anything. And then we have experiences that we've just talked about, and it's just interesting to see it. It's just crazy.
It's something that, like you said, you wouldn't expect, knowing that these are people from professional backgrounds who have been... Well-educated people who have been kind of like...
And are supposed to be your the person that you look up to, essentially.
Oh, role models. Yeah,
right.
definitely.
So then having them say something to you that throws you off guard and then puts you in a position where you are now confused about your self identity almost.
Yeah.
It's just a horrible feeling. It's not.
And it's something that it's still common to this day.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's very apparent,
which we'll probably talk about in the next episode.
In the next episode,
because we're
perfect
just going
way to segue to that. So, like Safa said, today we spoke about mainly kind of our perspective with school racism and our experience around that. But there's actually a whole different type of space, but has still related to education, which is homeschool kid.
Yeah.
So the reason that we've thought of this is because a lot of, we run a youth group in UCP, and a lot of the participants in
almost
our youth
over half of the participants
are homeschooled kids. And through the different topics that we've done with them and Safa's done with them in regards to kind of like different things, when racism came up, their perspective was really interesting in regards to their homeschooled experience of racism compared to those kids who are in public school.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the main focus of the next episode. So we'll get onto that, and you can stay tuned in for that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. And we'll see you in the next one.